And I woke up and I was like, this is not the life I'm meant to be living. Our darkest aspects were activated and we were toxic towards each other. It was like you're seeing all of them and also nothing at the same time. And then you're also like, you're just in this moment. There is nothing outside of the two of you. We both took really giant leaps in starting our lives over and reclaiming, a future and a life together. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking all about the runner's perspective, my twin flame journey, how I met my twin flame. I was the twin flame runner, so if you want to hear more about everything the runner's thinking and feeling during separation, watch this video. Alright guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here today. If you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell so you are notified every time we come out with a new video. It's bi-weekly at this time, so I make videos with my twin flame and then also solo videos. So if you'd like more of that, be sure to subscribe. And you guys, so this is my story. So I made another one of these videos you can look up here. So this is just a reiteration of my twin flame journey and my story. And so we can go back like years, you guys, before I even thought of twin flames or knew twin flames existed. And I was already being prepared for this journey. So likely you are too, or you have been also. So for me, it looked a lot like really having this need to change my lifestyle, really having this desire to go deeper within. I was meditating a lot. I was doing like a Korean style meditation, like 4 times a week, 2 to 3 hours. And I was like digging up all this stuff. And I found so much juice in doing this work that I always knew like, oh, this is going to be a part of my future somehow. And here I am helping other twin flames do the shadow work, do the inner work, right? And so this was a big part of my evolution was, going deep within, understanding my own triggers, my own traumas, my own programming, and how to break it and morph it and turn it into something that lights me up and something that can actually propel me forward rather than something that's holding me back. And so I was with a soulmate for about 5 years. I thought I was gonna marry this person. I thought this person was like, they came also very divinely into my life through a boss and a coworker. And so it was like it felt very natural and it felt very aligned. And this person, I felt like I grew up with them, like we grew up together and we were really there for each other. And it was very much a soulmate relationship, but I knew I wasn't growing. And we both started to kind of turn away from each other and we started to grow in different directions. And I did not want to leave this relationship, you guys. The spirit kicked me out of this relationship. I was doing hair at the time. I was a hairstylist. I had a house, had a car, had all the stuff. And I started to get really sick. I started to, have some tests run. I had some weird blood results that came back. And I got to a point in this journey, you guys, where I was sick for a couple months. And I was really scared. I was like feeling like, oh my God, what's happening to me? Is this like the end of my life? And I remember going into an urgent care randomly because I thought, something was going on with me. And the person at the urgent care was looking at all my lab results that I had done previously. And I had an appointment with like a bone marrow specialist. And he was like, well, look, I can tell you one of two things. I can tell you this is either really bad and it might be some sort of bone disease, bone cancer, or I can tell you it's stress. And I like looked at him and I was so angry. I was like, another doctor labeling me down to stress, or like pretending like my things don't exist, right? And so when he said that though, a light bulb almost went off in my head and I got so angry that I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to sit down and I am not going to leave this chair in my room until I figure out what's wrong. And so I sat down and I looked at everything that was going on in my relationship, everything I did and did not like about my life. I went through it all. And I woke up and I was like, this is not the life I'm meant to be living. I am like settling and sacrificing so many parts of myself because I think this is what I should be doing. And that these results that came back was like me feeling internally like I was slowly dying, like my light was slowly being extinguished, and that manifested on a physical level. Now, the crazy part was this happened literally right before I met my karmic partner. So within a span of a week, I found out I wasn't happy in my lifestyle, in my relationship. I went to a spiritual event, met this person, and then broke up with my my partner at the time, my soulmate. And then literally from that point, met my karmic, like within a week of itself. So it happened fast. As soon as I made that decision, like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm moving in the right direction in my life, it happened so fast. And so when I met my karmic, I had all kinds of signs and synchronicity. Like this is when I was really tuned in, tapped in spiritually. So I was divinely guided to that. And I know I was for a fact. And it was a very important meeting in my life and a very important lesson in my life. And so my karmic relationship lasted about 2 years, maybe like 2.5, close to 3. And it was a wild ride. So this made me, I basically threw out previous Serena and became an entirely new person. And this is because I put my karmic partner on a pedestal and I wanted to live their lifestyle. This was a person that was really well traveled. This is a person that was really involved in the spiritual community. This is a person that I really looked up to. And so I gave away all of my power to this person. It was very much a narcissist empath dynamic. And a lot of you guys ask me about this, ask about being narcissist and empath, and is my twin flame a narcissist? I'm scared I'm going to be attracting more of this person. And, you know, I can very much say that if you're attracting a narcissist, it's because a part of you abuses yourself, right? A part of you doesn't trust yourself. A part of you doesn't value yourself. And because that's what I also went through. Now, I'm not also saying that you're not a victim of that circumstance, because it can be both, right? You can attract something and be a victim of it at the same time. And that's because there's two unconscious programs running at the same time. And until you become aware of it, it's going to keep running your life because it's on a subconscious level. So you have to bring that to the light and bring that to the surface. And so during this time, I was going on a cross-continental trip around Africa. And you guys, there were so many things as I look back now that I'm like, wow, I cannot believe, like, it couldn't have happened any other way. Like, we couldn't have left it any other way. We were meant to be filming this as a documentary series and we could not get it up off the ground. We had commitments that fell through. We had money. I had spent so much of my own money trying to get this project off the ground, you guys. It's not even funny. And so all of that like went to the wayside. And then I was like, oh my God, if we were in this big convoy of 11 people plus a production team, I would have never probably met my twin flame or never had the ability to actually interact with him at all. And so the way that it played out, it had to play out that way. And as we were going along this trip, so before I even met my twin flame, things were getting really, really nasty with my karmic. And we were talking about breaking up. There was a point in time where he was threatening to kind of kick me off the team. I wasn't acting in my greatest light at all, you know, like karmics are meant to bring out the darkest aspects of yourself. And that's absolutely what happened between the two of us. Like our darkest aspects were activated and we were toxic towards each other. I was also toxic in the relationship. I was not in my power at all. I was completely in wounded feminine, 100%. And the way that I started to get out of that was through healing. When we met certain people along the way, along the route, there was a healing, a beautiful healing that I had done when we landed in Cape Town in the beginning of the trip. And we were in a ceremony, in a service of the native Khoisan people. And so the queen or the tribe leader, she saw me and she was like, I can see you have this deep heart wound. And so we'll see if I can try and find the video of you guys of this ceremony. So she took me into this water with like snakes in it, and it's like this pond, it's like crazy, and she basically like exorcised my demons, you guys. So that's kind of how they call it, because the language is still very different. It's still very like, in good and evil. But she had said like I had this heart wound in me from a child, and I knew exactly what it was. And it was the craziest thing. When she was done performing her, healing on me, I could feel where that wound was, but I could no longer use it anymore. And I know that sounds weird and crazy, but it was like I had felt like I could feel where the scar was, and I can still sometimes feel it. And it was like an empathic thing. It was like where I allowed everybody to sit on my heart, on my shoulders, and I took on everyone's emotions into myself. And I suffered a lot, and I was sick a lot because of that, stomach aches, headaches, like all kinds of different internal things going on, because I soaked up everyone's emotions, thinking that that's what made me valuable. And so this was one of the things that healed me on my journey in order to prepare me to meeting my twin. And then I started to really conflict with the two other people I was traveling with, which were two men, right? And there was very much this dynamic of, oh, Serena's the crazy one, she's the too emotional one, and I didn't really have any other women to connect with, so I felt very alone and very isolated. And I knew the only way that I can pull myself out of this toxic dynamic was to sit there and like kind of meditate all day and be like, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And this was the one thing that was able to build me up enough to actually meet my twin flame and make the decision to leave. So when I met my twin flame, I had been doing this for probably maybe a month or so. As we were traveling, I would sit in the car and I would be like, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And I met my twin flame, and I was actually with my partner at the time, right? So we were all together, and me and my partner were in this open relationship. And I'll tell you, it wasn't a very healthy open relationship, but it was what I thought I needed to do in order to be a good spiritual person, right? I thought as a good spiritual person, I should allow my partner the freedom to explore the way that they want to explore, right? And my partner pushed me to explore in that way, which was not good or bad. It was both, right? There were aspects of it that were incredibly good for me, because I was able to act on my passion and my sexuality in a way that I wasn't able to before. And that is what led me to my twin, you guys. So it's like my karmic partner prepared me A through Z to meeting my twin. And then the other bad part of it was I stopped trusting myself, right? I did things that my body was saying no to because I was afraid if I didn't do that, I would lose this person. And that's part of being in an abusive, toxic relationship, is this person will gaslight you and make you feel like you are not enough, you are not worthy of love as you are, so you must change, right? And I was in agreement with that. I also thought I wasn't worthy of love the way that I am, and that my qualities and characteristics were not lovable, which is why I decided, oh, I should be in a relationship like this, right? So I had to heal that within myself in order to attract a relationship that is actually healthy and that is actually beneficial. And it took a lot of pain and suffering and a lot of like, finally, I am enough as I am done with all of this, in order to get to that point. And I was broken when I met my twin flame. I was so broken and I was embarrassed, like, there was a part of him that lit up a part of me that I thought was gone forever. I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was going to marry my karmic partner. I was going to be in some sort of an open relationship for my entire life. I was probably going to, look after the kids by myself. I kind of resigned myself to this life, and that this was the best I could do. And then when I met my twin flame, everything changed. Like, the day I spent with him, I was so sad and so confused and so lost. I was like, I just need a place to be. He's like, don't worry, I'll take care of you. He had surf lessons to do that day, so he was like, you can sit in my office. and you can be here, nobody will disturb you. It's at the back of the property, and you can just sit here. I'll leave my jacket for you. I'll leave you a pen and a notebook, and you can just hang out. And so he would come back in and out between his surf lessons and say hi and how's it going and stuff like that. But he just allowed me the space to be me and to be soft and to be not social. And I knew in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I don't have to project myself to be somebody that I'm not. If I want to be quiet and introverted, I can be quiet and introverted. If I want to cry, I can cry. I just felt so much freedom blossoming within myself, because I thought I had to be all of these things in order to be worthy of love, and realized that, oh my God, I don't have to be anything other than exactly what I'm feeling in this moment. And that is enough. And so that was a big aha moment for me. And so what ended up happening, you guys, as I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, is that I was on this trip. I met my twin flame with my karmic partner, okay? And so we were in a debate whether we were going to stay at this hostel and camp there or for a couple nights, or whether we were going to move on. And I sensed that my karmic picked up on the fact that I was interested in this person, and all of a sudden they didn't like the way it felt there. They wanted to leave. And so both of my, so I decided to be like, okay, well, my loyalty is to the people I'm traveling with, so we should all just leave. So we all leave, and I'm flooded with this sense of complete regret and complete sadness that I didn't explore anything with my twin flame. I didn't even really get to talk to him. Like, we had a brief couple of words one morning when we were all sitting together and we were pulling oracle cards, and he happened to pull like the oracle card that I associated with myself in that deck. So that was one crazy synchronicity, that I was like, out of 60 some cards in that deck, he happens to pull the one that I associate with me. And so that was really cool. And I didn't tell him that until later on, but that was a really cool synchronicity. And then from that point, I was doing a meditation as we were leaving the place where my twin flame was. I was doing a meditation and, kind of just, rectifying within myself the regrets that I have and the sadness that I had that I didn't, make a move, or I didn't explore that relationship further. And so I was, meditating, trying to take him as part of myself. And I had this whole vision of like this tree, and this beautiful, big, healthy tree. And what I saw was like, I was trying to take him as part of myself. And then I realized he was already like a whole bunch of branches on this tree of me. And I was like, oh my God, he's already a part of me. And I was in the car and I just started weeping, because it was like this realization of like, oh my God, he's not separate from me. And yes, while this is true on every level with every person, we're all connected, this felt different. It was like I was reclaiming a part of myself. And that's when I started to kind of realize, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not in my twin flame relationship, because I didn't know I was in my karmic relationship. Maybe I'm not in my twin flame relationship right now. Maybe this is something else. And so that went on for about a month, you guys. So we continued traveling, and then we got to a head, okay? So things got really dark with my karmic partner, and I wanted to have a conversation with him, and that turned into this huge fight. And I realized, you know what? I'd been sacrificing everything I wanted to do on this trip and doing everything they wanted to do. So this is my chance. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to go back to where my twin flame was, and I'm going to do that by myself. I'm going to rent my own car. I'm going to go and do this thing. And I met this beautiful girl along the way who helped me. We traveled together because she was going in the same direction, and it was just this beautiful, wonderful experience. But that's besides the point. So I went back to where my twin flame was, which was about an 8-hour drive from where my karmic partner and our friend was. And I had this crazy experience with my twin flame. It was like something out of a movie. And when I talk about it now, even, I'm like, I'm full of baloney. Like, this is why twin flames feel crazy, because you're like, I can't even explain like how magical it was. Like we were sitting under a billion stars, like on the cliffs overlooking the sea, talking about each other, like just the attraction and the chemistry, and it was explosive, and it was like I could look into his eyes and see forever. Like I couldn't see where he started and stopped, because it was like looking in a mirror, you know? It was like you're seeing all of them and also nothing at the same time. And then you're also like, you're just in this moment. There is nothing outside of the two of you. And it was this beautiful experience of true and utter oneness and presence. And when I had to leave him, so I spent 3 days with him. And when I had to leave him, it was the most heartbroken I had ever been. I'm not even kidding when I say this. I had broken up with partners of, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. And this was the most heartbroken I had ever been after 3 days. And you guys, on like the second day, he looked at me and I was like, this man is gonna tell me he loves me right now. And he looks at me and he's like, I feel like I need to tell you I love you. And I was like, I knew it. And I was like, I love you too. Like, it was the craziest thing. And so I just bawled my eyes out for like 7 hours when I was driving back to my karmic partner. And the girl that I was traveling with, she asked me this question that helped point me exactly in the right direction, because I told her everything that was going on. And she was like, how will you know when how will you know who it is, who's the right person? And I was like, I'd had this happen one time before with my previous partner, where you start looking at your partner and you're just like, they don't look right anymore. And I can't really explain it, because it's not like anything has changed within them, but it's like they just don't look right. They don't fit right. They don't sound right. They don't smell right. Like everything's just not right. And that's when you start to realize, ooh, I'm not moving in the right direction anymore. And so I was like, I'm gonna know this. And so my karmic partner put up this big thing when I got back to him. He had, we had been camping this entire trip. And so he booked us a hotel room, got everything together. And then something went wrong with the hotel room. And he was like a really big jerk to the person at the front desk. And that was like my first red flag, my first sign. Like I was finally seeing things clearly again. And I was like, wow, he was super rude, like to this person that clearly had no idea what was going on. And then we get in the hotel room and I'm like, it just didn't feel right. He didn't look right. He didn't sound right. It was just not right. And so then I had a big decision to make. Then I was like, okay, I need to decide, do I continue with my life looking this way, or do I move in this direction of this other person who is living in a place that I probably don't really want to live in, because where my twin flame was like really out in the middle of nowhere. It was like camping, living there, where I don't really have any like prospects, like there's not really much I could do there. And so I spent about a month still traveling on this trip, going up into Africa further, and was continuing traveling. And me and my twin were staying in contact. He had given me a stone that I would hold. It was rose quartz. And so I would hold it all the time. Like this was my like lifeline to him. And we had both given each other stones, which is so crazy, because I left him a stone and he also gave me a stone. And so we had stones from each other, and we would always send each other pictures of us holding them close, or he would always like play with his in his mouth, like all of that kind of stuff. And I kid you not, I think that was one of the main things that helped me break away from this toxic relationship. And funny enough, I also had a reading done before this trip, and she had given me as a gift a bunch of rose quartz stones. And she was like, it's going to be really important for you to just focus on yourself, focus on letting things go, focus on unconditionally loving yourself. And that was literally my journey the entire trip, because in order to get out of this toxic karmic relationship, I had to have an incredible amount of self-love. I had to really build myself up, because at that point, my confidence, everything had been knocked down. And if it wasn't for meeting my twin flame, I'd probably still be in the relationship, and I'd be in, like hell on earth, be in a horrible place. And so meeting my twin flame changed that and gave me that aha moment. And then I had to work through the follow through. So if you're a chaser watching this and you've watched it to this point, thank you. But the important part is the runner's not always running because they're trying to get away from you, or they're trying to hurt you. The runner is running because they have things that they need to address within themselves, right? They have karmic cycles that they need to close out. They have cords that they need to cut. They have things within themselves that they need to clear up before they're even going to be ready for you. Like, my twin flame wouldn't have wanted to be in a relationship with me at that point, because I would have been a mess. I would have been still so codependent. I would have been emotionally too vulnerable. I physically probably would have shut down, because at that point my body had wasted away so much from just not taking care of myself. Like, it was not a pretty picture, you know? And that's how I knew my twin flame loved me, because I'm like, if somebody could love me in this state that I'm in right now, like, that's amazing. And so I made the really, really, really tough decision after about a month longer of traveling to finally cut things off with my twin flame. And I had to do it step by step. So I first said, like, I'm done with the trip, right? And so that was my first thing, was like, okay, I'm done with this trip. And the first step was like, I needed to stay at a different location than them, because he had such a hold over me that I was like, I need to stay not at the same hostel as you, because I'm so concerned about you and what you're doing, and you know, all of that it was like poison inside of me. And so I was like, okay, let me book myself into a different place where we were staying. Let me just, you know, be by myself. And that's when my karmic started to realize, like, ooh, she might be serious. Because at first I was like, okay, let's kind of break up on the trip. Let's just be friends and you can do whatever you want. And he was like, yay, cool, that's awesome. And then when I started to be like, okay, now I want to stay at a different location, he was like, okay, something's going on. And then I was like, no, I'm leaving the trip. And then he's really like, no, I'm gonna miss you, you can't leave. I love you so much, we're gonna go home and we're still gonna be together when I get done with this trip, right? And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll still consider having a relationship with you. And then as soon as I got into the airport, I realized this is not the person I want to be with. This is not the relationship I want to have. And I started to look at making plans to go back to see my twin flame. At that point, I was like, these are my two options. Go see my twin flame or stay with my karmic, right? Because I was a codependent person. I was like defining myself by my relationships. And then the hardest decision I made was actually to choose myself and to say, my heart is broken right now, like broken into a million pieces, stomped on, dragged through the mud, like just, it's not even salvageable at this point. And I was shattered. I was like, there is absolutely no way I can start a relationship with somebody new like this. And I had made this mistake, as I told you in the beginning. There was a week span of me breaking up with my soulmate and meeting my karmic partner. So I had made this mistake the first time. I didn't give myself time to heal and to become whole on my own. And I allowed somebody to step in and take that responsibility from me. And so I wasn't going to do that this time. And so I realized there's a third option, and that's choosing myself. So I made a really hard decision, which was to cut things off with my twin flame and to cut things off with my karmic and to go home and to heal myself. And I was devastated because I thought for sure my twin flame was never going to talk to me again, because I had started making plans to come back to see him. After I broke up with my karmic, I was like stuck in an airport for a few days. And I was like, okay, and not really in an airport, but stuck in like a transition, you know, for a few days. And trying to figure out where am I going to fly to next. And I was so out of myself. I was so ungrounded because I was so scared. I had never made a decision like this before. And so I cut myself off from all of them and was like, that's it. I've ruined it. I'm done. Now I'm going to just focus on myself. And so I sent a really long message to my twin flame apologizing, you know, that I had kind of broken his heart, that I didn't follow up with my word, that I was going back to United States because that's what I needed to do. And I felt so bad and so guilty. I felt so guilty that I did that to him because I knew it really, really, really hurt. And he didn't respond to me for a good couple of days, maybe almost a week. And then finally he was like, you know, it's okay. I needed some time to resolve everything. And then we kind of started talking again, and we had certain times where we were in no contact. And it wasn't necessarily because one or the other of us. It was because there was no cell reception, or I didn't have Wi-Fi, or like things like that. So we had spans of times of like a week, maybe a week and a half, where we weren't in contact with each other. But that's when that telepathy was so strong, and like I felt his presence with me even though I wasn't able to contact him. And so then I went back home. I went back home to the United States. I stayed with my dad for 6 months and was in contact on and off with my twin flame. I was starting this YouTube channel. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and I went through an incredible amount of healing. There were so many things that I could make a whole nother video on this, of like what I healed during my separation. Like, so I was guided through so many healings and so many purging scenarios, and really coming to terms with my own toxicity, my own desires to be abused, my own, you know, desire to be loved, and like how to rectify these things within myself. And this is the work that all twin flames have to do in order to get to where they want to go, whether that's union, whether that's not union. Not all twin flames are going to choose union. And that's valid, and that's okay. And then that means there's something greater out there for you. And so, you know, this was my whole trajectory, was coming to terms with all of this, and coming to terms with my journey and how to heal myself. And do I want to be with this person? Do I want to explore that? And we talked about that, he and I, at length, you know, talked about, okay, do I come back there? Do we meet somewhere else? Like, what's going on, and how do we make that work? And ultimately I decided to come back to South Africa and to see his hometown, because I'd never seen his hometown. And he made the giant move of leaving his work, leaving his job, to come back to his hometown. So where I met him in was not his hometown, so he made the move to leave that place and come back so that I could see if I liked it here. So we both took really giant leaps in starting our lives over, and reclaiming, you know, a future and a life together. And it was intense when we came back together. It was really, really intense. And I'll make a video about that too very soon, so stay tuned. But yeah, that is my story from the runner perspective, all about how I met my twin flame and what was going on. If you guys have questions, put it down below. If you have comments, put it down below. If you're looking for any more support, you can check the links in the description, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Big love, Serena.